guys, and welcome back to my channel. It's me, who the hell else would you expect? And I'm back to do my weekly roundup of what I watched last week. So finally, the last week of May, we're in June already, which is madness. In Ireland, the sun is shining. I don't know quite what to make of that. It's weird. So let's get kicked on. Let's get the old recorder on. Okay, so I think we ended last week with Raya and the Last Dragon. So the first film there on the list is Tomahawk. This is one a lot of people have been telling me to watch. And it's one that I was feeling, why do people love this so much? Until I got about 3/4 of the way through, and the last quarter of that movie really pays off. So to give you a really slight version of the story, I leave this for other people. I'm just telling you what I've watched, and if I liked it, we follow, basically something happens in a small town. An individual who is to be taken prisoner, played by David Arquette, is injured. He is put in a police cell and the town doctor is called to care for him, which she does, and inexplicably they both go missing. So the doctor's wife is played by Patrick Wilson, he of Conjuring fame, and he goes with Kurt Russell, the sheriff, and a couple of other individuals in search of this prisoner and the doctor, who have been kidnapped by what they believe to be savages, wild men. And we follow the journey, we follow everything that happens on the journey, the relationship between all the men, how they really get on each other's nerves, the real sort of different dynamic between the characters. This is quite slow moving, I will say, but when you get, I say, 3/4 of the way through, completely pays off and it's almost a different movie. And it gave me what I was expecting when I went into the movie. I was watching it feeling quite disappointed that I wasn't seeing what I was expecting to see, something quite shocking, something quite gritty, something quite dark, and I wasn't seeing it. The last quarter of the movie paid off completely. So although it's a slow start, I really would recommend Tomahawk. It's well worth a watch if you persevere with it. So on the following evening, this is one I've been hearing about for so long. I first heard about this on Sean's channel, Lost in the Rail, and I completely understand his review now that I've seen it. This movie follows, refer you to Sean's channel for a proper review of the whole story, more sort of detailed and professional, shall we say. So this basically follows a young girl who is deaf, and she witnesses the horrific murder of her parents. And for some reason, this violent act, actually restores her hearing. She goes on to become a music teacher. She's obsessed with trying to make music differently or with different sounds, and she gets an innate amount of pleasure from hearing the sounds of people in pain. So that's basically the premise of the movie. She's trying to make a piece of music using the sounds of people in pain, and it makes her a bit warped and it makes her do things that really she should not be doing. And people in her life are invariably going to get hurt emotionally and physically while she is of this state of mind. Okay, I just read the gumph that's here and I'm not going to read it. If you've read it, you've read it. But I think the gumph gives away a little bit too much. But basically, be prepared for some really original methods of causing pain to other people. There's two in this, one especially right at the end. It's like, oh my god, you will see some stuff you haven't seen before. And for me, it brought a movie that I was sort of teetering about a 2.5 for me. It brought it up because it was so ingenious and different, and it brought it up to a 3. So yeah, I would recommend it. I don't think everyone will enjoy it, but it's worth giving a watch if you want to see something quite unique. So on the 26th, I watched a documentary called Nail Bomber Manhunt, which is on Netflix at the moment. This goes into talking about the London bombings of 1999. They were really targeting members of the Bangladeshi and the black community, and then they moved on to targeting the gay community. Absolutely barbaric, horrible. And this documentary interviews people that were there. They talk about the experience. They talk about, you know, what it was like to be in London at that time and the fear amongst people. And obviously we go into tracking down the individual responsible for it. It's quite a decent little documentary. You do know I watch a lot of these. It's not the best one I've ever seen, but it isn't that long. I think it's only 1.5 hours and it's a one-off, just like a movie documentary. So yeah, I would recommend, yeah, 72 minutes. It's an hour and 12 minutes, so it's quite short. So yeah, it's interesting. It does give you quite a good insight, but it's not particularly in-depth. But I think if you're a casual viewer of documentaries and true crime, then you probably would find this interesting. I give that a 3 out of 5. So on the following evening, I watched Those Who Wish Me Dead. Now, I am a massive fan of Angelina Jolie. I love her, but I had been hearing really disappointing things about this movie. And I will say personally myself, it was disappointing purely from the standpoint of the cast that we had. Apologies, I've just had a text. Kelly, that was you if you're watching. From the standpoint of the cast that we've got and the director that we have and previous work that he's done, Taylor Sheridan. So I don't like to say it's a bad movie. It's not a bad movie. It's a very slow movie. Not an awful lot happens, and there's an awful lot of stuff that happens in the movie that just, you're looking at it going, nah, that would not, that's just ridiculous. That's just silly. So the premise, a teenage murder witness finds himself, I didn't think he was a teenager, I would have thought he was younger than that, finds himself pursued by twin assassins in the Montana wilderness with a survival expert, Angelina Jolie, tasked with protecting him and a forest fire threatening to consume them all. So it is what they say, she works as a firefighter, so she has experienced something in the past, which it does go into showing you what it was, and she has PTSD, she's struggling with that. The situation surrounding what she's struggling with is something that sort of presents itself again almost, and she's trying to keep this little boy safe, but this little boy has information that is going to be very damaging to the people that are pursuing him. So it's not just about keeping him safe, it's about trying to enable him to deliver this message or to get whatever this information is out there. It's an interesting enough movie. I'm not going to say it's badly acted, it isn't. The cinematography is really decent. I just felt that with the quality of director and acting we have, we should have had something very special here, but we've got something quite lackluster and quite slow and not what it could have been. So I give that a 2.5 out of 5. I'm trying to be more constructive. I was watching Geek Legion of Doom's video on giving advice to people that do reviews, and he did remind me of a lot of things that as a reviewer you should try to do that sometimes you forget. It's really worth watching if you're a reviewer of movies. Really check that video out, I'll link it below. Some really solid advice there. I mean, saying to people this was crap, the acting was terrible, blah blah blah. It's not really constructive, and surely all of the acting wasn't terrible, and you're sort of really just pissing over someone's creation. So try to be constructive with what you didn't like, what you did like, and try and be positive about positive aspects. So I'm trying to do more of that. So I do refer you to Leo's video. It's really worth watching. He goes into dealing with trolls, getting into disputes with people publicly on the platform, just loads of stuff that you learn as you do it, and pitfalls we've all fallen into. I know I have, but as you do it longer, you learn things really not to do anymore, or you know how you can improve. But if you're just starting out, really check out that video and he will tell you a load of things to prevent you falling into all those old mistakes. So yeah, so there's a plug for Leo. So that was Those Who Wish Me Dead. So on the same evening, yes, the highly anticipated Friends reunion. I didn't actually know what this was. I thought it was an episode of Friends with them all meeting up again. It isn't. It was basically all the actors meeting up on the set, getting to look through the whole set, reminiscing, looking back to really famous scenes, like my favourite, the pivot one with Ross and the sofa up the stairs, which still makes me laugh out loud. I love it. Him getting stuck in the bathroom with the leather pants that he can't get pulled back up, and cream and stuff. Oh, just, I love Friends. I'm a big fan of Friends. When I worked in Blockbuster, it was always on in the telly, and every single video, yes, video, guys, VHS back in those days, every video we would put on, someone would come in and rent it, and you'd get it taken. I was like, oh, for God's sake. But it was really nice to watch if you're a fan. You probably get nothing from it if you're not a fan of the show. But if you are, you will get a lot from it. And just one piece of information that was just blew me away, which I'm sure if you wanted to watch it, you would have seen it, was that Ross and Rachel, as in Jennifer Aniston and David Schwimmer, really did have feelings for one another. But because they were both always in relationships, it never happened. And she had said to him at one stage, I think they were quite open with the fact they had feelings for one another, and she'd said, wouldn't it be awful if our first kiss was on screen as Ross and Rachel? And it was, and they never got together. But it sort of made me wonder how they felt about each other now, and they don't discuss that. But I just found it really interesting to know that they actually really did have deep feelings for one another back when they filmed all those like relationship scenes. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I give it a 4 out of 5. If you're a fan, check it out. On the 28th, yes, I went, and you will have seen my video. If you haven't, I'll try to remember to link it in the comments. I finally went to the cinema on the first day of its opening to see Spiral from the Book of Saw. Now, I'm not going to go into detail because I did a review on this, and I don't normally do movie reviews anymore. I used to, but not so much anymore. There's too many people doing a really good job at it. I'm not going to try to... This little roundup's enough for me. But a lot of people are hating this. I enjoyed this. I went into this thinking I was going to hate it. Mainly because Chris Rock was in it. And I thought he was completely, I know it was his idea and he approached it, the people and everything. But I thought, oh God, this is such a bad choice. I liked the idea they were going to try to go down the more Cop 7 type route. Didn't like the fact we didn't have the voice that we've become accustomed to. There is a couple of points in the movie that we hear the Saw music, which delighted me no end, which actually made me sit in that cinema all on my own with a stupid big grin on my face. I thought Chris Rock was really good in this. I thought he was believable. I liked his character. I liked the storyline. Again, I'm not going to get into all of it. I've done a review if you do want to see it. But I disagree with most people saying this is a poor movie. I personally enjoyed it. I don't really... Yes, Chris Rock does do something that Emma from Spooky Astronauts said there should be a drinking game for the amount of times Chris Rock does this when he's thinking. There's a lot of like flashbacks and he like looks off to, she calls it squinty eyes. And I caught him doing that a lot near the end, which was a bit funny, but it didn't take away my enjoyment. I personally, with my buddy Strange Monkey, who also liked this, I enjoyed it. And it was the same with Train to Busan 2, Peninsula. Everybody was saying this is terrible, this is awful. My buddy says, no, it's decent, it's good. I watched it, I completely agree with him. So me and Strange Monkey, both big fans of this movie. So yeah, I give that a 3.5 out of 5. On the same evening, I watched, so disappointed by this, a movie on Netflix called Ghost Lab. So this is about, after witnessing a haunting in their hospital, 2 doctors become dangerously obsessed with obtaining scientific proof that ghosts exist. Now, that premise sounds amazing, and it could have been, it wasn't. Loads of waffle, really long drawn out. The ending was really good. There were a couple of scenes in it. I thought, if you could have worked more off of this and done this kind of thing, this could have been really good. But there was just too much time spent talking about and discussing things that weren't interesting. But the premise of it, the actual premise, I really enjoyed. Maybe a 2 is harsh. Maybe I should have given it a bit more than 2. Maybe I should have given it a 2.5. I go by the sort of consensus that a 3 is something that I enjoy and I don't really have much criticism of. 4 is something that I absolutely love, and a 5's perfection. So I'm going to give that a 2.5. It was okay, it's worth a watch, but it's not anything new. You're not going to see anything super shocking or surprising. It does drag in places, but the payoff's probably worth it at the end if you want to check it out. You know me, completely obsessed with anything to do with supernatural, which is why I watched it. So on the 29th, oh my goodness, this, I don't often want to do a review. I want to review this on its own. I might do when I finished it. I know I've got it in here as I haven't quite finished this yet. It's a series. If you don't watch anything of my recommendations, watch this. This is a series on Netflix called Move to Heaven. It's Korean. This follows a group of trauma cleaners, which basically means people that go in after someone dies and they clear out their possessions. It's not horrible and gory. We're not cleaning up dead bodies. This is the people that go in and box up basically what makes a person. They discover, it's like each episode is individual, a bit like, I came to the conclusion last night as I'm watching this that I must love this sort of premise because Medium had it, House has it, anything that has each episode as an individual thing on its own, an individual story. So every episode they go into a different house and we get to know the story of the people that have died. The young lad that's doing the house clearance is autistic, and he's very much everything must be done by the rules, by the book, properly. You have to be very respectful. Everything has a way. I don't want to tell you any more about it, but someone comes into his life and has to do this job with him that maybe isn't perhaps as dedicated and professional as he is, so he has to deal with that. There's a story going on in the background of the family, but every episode is about a different individual's life, and it is beautiful. The acting is fantastic. I say it's Korean. It's so sentimental without being syrupy. I've cried at every single I want to cry talking about it. Every single episode I've watched, I've cried. It's sad. It's very sad. But every episode has a lesson. What does it say? We are trauma cleaners. We will now begin your last move. That's a part of what they say every time they go in to do the move. Finding life in all that's left behind, a trauma cleaner with Asperger's and his ex-con uncle deliver the untold stories of the departed to loved ones. So basically they have this little yellow box, and in the yellow box they put anything that they find that they feel is of particular relevance of that person that's passed, and they deliver that box to their loved ones. And there's often little stories that unravel. Well, there always is a story that unravels of something their loved ones weren't aware of, or they want to give a message to their loved ones, and it's simply beautiful. I looked on IMDb about this, and it was like 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, and I'm like, surely everybody can't be given this 10, and I think it's on an 8.9 on IMDb. Thoroughly deserved. This is a beautiful series. I think I have 2 episodes left to watch. There are 10 episodes. I can't rant enough about it. It is stunningly beautiful series, so check it out. Wonderful. And on the 30th, which was Sunday, I watched Godzilla vs. Kong, which is now available on Amazon Prime. But this isn't my kind of movie, let's be honest. The monster scenes were fantastic. I love King Kong. I just have such affection for Kong. I love the way they went with this. I love the scenes with Godzilla and Kong in it. Everything else, all of the other people that are there, not interested. Millie Bobby Brown's acting in this was embarrassing in places. I'm thinking, if I'd never seen Stranger Things, I would think this young girl can't act, because everything is overacted, everything is hammy, everything, it's almost like she's overacted on purpose. It's just weird. But the fight scenes are it's worth watching for that. The actual effects, amazing. That's what you watch these movies for. So if that's what you're watching for, the effects, the fights, the monsters, then you will enjoy this. The stories surrounding them, not so much for me. I gave it a 2.5 out of 5. I just knocked this off, because you can see the horribleness that I had to go and watch on Monday, Peter Rabbit 2, with my son at the cinema and his pal. Really, honest to God, right, you can imagine where that's going. Although, no, I'm not even going to talk about it. But yeah, that is what I've watched this week. There's a few things on my radar that I really want to see. There is a new series that's popped up with Kate Winslet in as a detective, and I can't remember the name, completely forgotten, but I really want to see that. I'm going to finish Move to Heaven, which is just a beautiful series. I have watched this week, a bit of paper here, Ultimate Mysteries, which has got stuff like, you know, the guys that escaped from Alcatraz. Did they get away? Did they not? That gives a lot of interesting information. D.B. Cooper, the guy that hijacked a plane with a ton of money, or he demanded a load of money and then jumped out of the plane, was never found, but some of the money was. Did he escape? Didn't he? Really interesting information about that. What's the other one? Amelia Earhart, obviously famous pilot. Did she survive the plane crash? Did she not? Did she die? So it's a series with things like that. I am all over stuff like that. Really enjoyed it. And I started watching a series called Panic on Prime, which I don't think I'm going to continue with. I've watched Sean from Lost in the Real and Austin Burke's reviews, and both, really, I don't think it's something that's going to be amazing. It's about a group of teenagers in a town, sort of dead-end town, and the only way out is to play this game that's existed for years called and basically on paper it sounds like it would be just my cup of tea. They have to undergo these challenges, these people that enter into it, but everything that they do is really dangerous and they could possibly die. And they just all compete right up until there's only two left, and the one person that wins money, and then they can leave the town. People in the past that have played have died, so that's the premise of the movie or of the series. But I'm not feeling it. I'm not connecting. I like the premise, but I trust Sean and Austin's reviews enough to know that persevering with it is sort of the thing I'll watch if I've nothing else at all to watch, which is never going to happen because my list of stuff to watch is as long as your arm. So I don't think I'm going to persevere with it. I'm going to start the Kate Winslet one. It looks more my cup of tea after I've finished Move to Heaven. As for movies, A Quiet Place 2. So I might get to see that this weekend. I might take you with me. I've heard so many good reviews for it. I'm really looking forward to it. But I think that's it on my radar at the moment of things I'm desperate to see. So yeah, thank you for watching, guys. It's a bit of a long one. I apologise. I waffle. This is me. I waffle. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments if you recommend anything or what you thought of anything I spoke about, and I look forward to speaking to you next week. Over and out from Lisa Loves.